People are watching the league specifically for Caitlin, and you see her getting abused and no whistle and no suspensions. And you'd have quotes from team owners, from players, from the commissioner that was just asinine. They just don't want to accept how important she is. The only reason they are flying private is because of her.
Exactly. The
only reason they have a new CBA.
The auditorium is silent. It is the sound of a league on fire watching its golden goose get hacked, shoved, and bruised under the basket with no whistle in sight. The guard stands up, dusts herself off, and hits a 30-foot step-back three. The crowd erupts. This is the paradox of Caitlin Clark. She is the most valuable asset the WNBA has ever seen, yet according to some of its most prominent voices, she is a distraction the league would be better off without. This isn't just a hot take. This is the intellectual bankruptcy of a sports media culture that refuses to understand what is actually happening on the court. Emmanuel Acho, the talking head known for his provocative stances, walked into the lion's den of the speakeasy and declared that the WNBA has graduated from needing Caitlin Clark. The thesis was audacious. Caitlin Clark got the eyes on the product, but now that the viewership is up, the league can move on to the real stars. The problem with this logic, however, is that it ignores the arithmetic of modern sports. It ignores the physics of viewership and the economics of a league that was until Caitlin Clark arrived, flying commercial and playing in empty arenas. When Acho suggested that the talent in the WNBA is greater than Caitlin Clark, he revealed the fundamental flaw in his argument. He missed the point. This isn't about talent. This is about gravity. Caitlin Clark possesses a gravitational pull that bends the entire court of public opinion toward her. She is the sun, and the rest of the league is now basking in the solar flare of her popularity.
The WNBA needs to be cognizant of where they put Caitlin Clark on posters. The WNBA and the officials need to alter the rules for Caitlin Clark. The WNBA and opposing players need to treat Caitlin Clark more gently. Caitlin Clark's coach needs to be cognizant of how she talks to her in public because it's going to look like there's an issue. Unless we can take off our gloves for Caitlin Clark and stop trying to act like she's a messiah, the WNBA could and would be better off without Caitlin Clark, at least without.
The reason Emmanuel Acho's rant incinerated on contact with reality is because Dave Portnoy, the unflinching king of sports media chaos, dissected it with surgical precision. Portnoy, who has built an empire on identifying bullshit in the sports ecosystem, took Acho to task not for his opinion, but for his ignorance. The accusation was severe. You don't watch the games. You can't name 8 players on the roster. You are lying to the audience to generate a headline because the NFL is in the off-season and you have nothing else to talk about. It is the ultimate indictment of the modern sports pundit, the need to be controversial rather than correct. Acho attempted to pivot by claiming that Caitlin Clark's distraction factor, the excessive media coverage, the constant security, the comparisons to the greats is a net negative. He called for the WNBA to take off the gloves and stop treating Caitlin Clark like a messiah. But this narrative ignores the reality of the physical abuse she has endured on the court. Caitlin Clark is the only player in the league whose injury, even for a single game, caused the broadcast viewership to plummet by 50%. The broadcasting partners, the people paying the bills, made it clear. The product without Caitlin Clark is a product that loses half its value overnight. The dynamic here is rooted in a territorial jealousy. As Portnoy noted, the league and its players seem to resent the fact that Caitlin Clark was crowned the queen of the league before she even stepped onto the professional court. This resentment manifests in the officiating, where she is hit harder and receives fewer calls than virtually any other player. It is a form of hazing designed to prove a point, but the point they are proving is self-destructive. The financial windfall she provided, the private jets, the record-breaking television deals, the new CBA negotiations is the very thing that will sustain their careers. If the league continues to cater to the insecurities of its veteran players and pundits like Emmanuel Acho, risks alienating the audience that Caitlin Clark brought to the door. As Portnoy emphasized, it is the worst marketed league in the history of leagues.
Well, it's the worst marketed league in the history of leagues. They're absolute morons. That's the answer. Now, a lot of times social media will take this into a different stratosphere because I've always said, I don't think you'll see this get politicized. I don't think it really is because she's a white girl, a straight girl, which people say, because the W has had a lot of white superstar and WNBA.
Historically, the WNBA has struggled to find a foothold in the American sports consciousness. It has always been a league of immense talent but minimal marketing. Players like Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, and Maya Moore were foundational legends. Yet they never achieved the mainstream crossover appeal that Caitlin Clark has achieved in just 2 seasons. So why the hesitation? Why the active antagonism? As the analysis deepens, we are forced to look at the psychology of the players and the media. The jealousy, hypocrisy, and envy, as described by Portnoy, stem from a feeling of unfair anointment. Players who grinded for a decade without recognition are watching a 22-year-old receive the keys to the kingdom on day 1. There is a human element to this resentment. It is understandable, but the crucial distinction, the one that exposes Emmanuel Acho's ignorance, is that Caitlin Clark is not just a player. She is a paradigm shift. Acho attempted to argue that the league has talent like Aja Wilson, Olivia Miles, on Paige Buchers, suggesting the product can survive without Caitlin Clark. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of the gravity of a star. Caitlin Clark is the single greatest revenue driver the league has ever seen. She isn't just additive, she is multiplicative. To suggest the league is better off without her is economically illiterate. It is a claim that ignores the data, ignores the ticket sales, and ignores the fact that no other group of players, not Aja Wilson, not Paige Buchers, could do what this one player from Iowa did.
There's one of the reasons you sound like such an idiot. She completely came in and single-handedly changed the league in a way that no other player or group of players could. No other group of players could do what this one player did. And now all of a sudden, the league is better off without her. I mean, you had no takes about the WNBA prior to Caitlin Clark, Emmanuel Acho. None. We don't have to lie and act like you did. It's ridiculous.
The climax of this narrative is the realization that Caitlin Clark single-handedly changed the financial trajectory of a 30-year-old league in 1 year. She is the reason for the massive jump in pay. She is the reason people are watching. Yet, to say this out loud is treated as a sign of disrespect to the players who came before. But as Portnoy stated, this is where the argument falls apart. The pundits, like Emmanuel Acho, who are now claiming the WNBA is better off without Caitlin Clark, were not watching the WNBA prior to her arrival. They had no takes, they had no opinions, they had no interest in the league. It is the peak of hypocrisy to enter the conversation only because of her popularity and then declare her irrelevant to the league's future. Acho's analysis was a catastrophic miscalculation of the market. In the modern media landscape, the audience wants authenticity, and the audience clearly sees Caitlin Clark as the driving force. To deny that truth is to deny the reality of the television contracts and the sold-out arenas. The narrative arc of this saga is simple. The WNBA has been given a golden ticket in Caitlin Clark. If the league and its commentators continue to pander to the idea that she is a distraction to be discarded, they risk losing their 50% viewership for good. So, we are left with the question that is burning through the veins of the sports world. Are the players, the media, and the league so blinded by their own jealousy that they are willing to burn down the house that Caitlin Clark just built? Let me know what you think.